Howdy! This video is about equivalent fractions and drawings. One way to start drawing something is a rectangle. This is a half. We're just going to pretend those are actually the same size. And then if you want to make fourths, then you can cut each half into fourths. And then some people like to color in the same color. Some people like to color in different colors. So this is a drawing of 2/4. Another way to draw it is a circle. It can be really hard to draw circles. It can be really frustrating. Sometimes they end up like super like weird. For some reason, like that, this one's kind of weird, for example. And so I know a lot of people get really critical of themselves when they're drawing circles. Same idea, you draw a half and then you cut it in half again if you're drawing fourths. Some people really like a game called Pizza Fractions, and Pizza Fractions works with circles. So you can see here, this is 2/4. I'm only going to bother coloring this one. I'm not going to color all the million circles I drew. And you could say to yourself, what's another name for that? Oh, it's half. Or you could keep slicing it. Say you are having a pizza party and there are more people coming. You could say there's this, or those pieces are way too big to hold, so awkward to hold a big slice of pizza. So you cut each pizza slice in half. Now you have 8 slices. So that 8 goes in the denominator. And half of a pizza is 4 slices. And we could just keep going and going and going. I'm going to do it to this bar. I like to call these chocolate bars when they're rectangles like this. Chocolate bar. Makes it more fun. Also, I find them easier to draw than pizzas or pies or whatever circular thing you're imagining. Right now, I have quarters. If I want to turn them into eighths, I cut each one in half again. Now there are 8 pieces, and I can keep doing that. Let me give a different example. Thirds are tricky to draw, so I want to show you how I draw thirds. If I'm using a rectangle, I have a lot of experience, but what I do is I imagine that there's 2 lines creating a middle piece. That's how I do it. If I'm drawing a circle, I think of a certain car symbol, kind of like a peace symbol. That's how I think of it. That was really not a great one, but you'll forgive me. So 1/3. If I want to think of another name for 1/3, I could cut these all in half. Now I have 6 pieces, and the shaded ones, there are 2 of them. Another thing I could do is I could take my thirds and I could divide each one into 3 pieces. Now I have 9 pieces, and 1/3 is 3 of those 9. If I draw the circle, I can do the same thing. I cut each of these into thirds. You see how my circle is starting to end up with some very big pieces of pizza and some very small pieces of pizza? This is why I prefer the chocolate bars, I'll be honest with you. I also want to show you some fifths. Fifths are even trickier to draw than thirds. And what I do is I go 1, 2, 3, and then the last piece, the last time I do a line, it becomes 4 and 5. They look really uneven. I'm going to try again. Sometimes I picture a middle piece, and then I can turn the end pieces into 2. I'm going to try that again. They're not very even bars of chocolate. You have to pretend that they're actually even. Drawing a circle with fifths I find quite frustrating. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. Oh, actually that one wasn't so bad. Although some of those pieces are quite smaller than others, so you have to pretend they're all equal. Unlike real pizza or real pie, sometimes they are just not cut equally. So what I do when I'm doing fifths is I'm picturing sixth in my mind. These are sixth. Okay, ignore that little dot in the middle. I'm picturing six, and what I'm imagining is that each one has to be slightly bigger than a sixth. So I'm going slightly bigger, slightly bigger, slightly bigger, and then the last big piece becomes 2. That's how I draw fifths. Like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.